You wake up already in pain, a dull ache in your lower back, tightness in your shoulders, a headache that started before you even opened your eyes. You reach for your phone to check the time and the blue light hits your face before the sun does. For 99% of human history, this was not normal. This was not even possible. Your ancient ancestors didn't have doctors. They didn't have antibiotics, dental floss, or running water. And yet in many measurable ways they were healthier than you are right now. Stronger bones, better cardiovascular fitness, fewer chronic diseases, sharper, more resilient bodies built for decades of hard physical life. How is that possible? The answer isn't that ancient life was easy. It wasn't. Life expectancy at birth was lower, largely because of high infant mortality and the constant risk of injury or infection without modern medicine. But here's the detail almost nobody mentions. If a hunter-gatherer survived childhood, their odds of living into their 60s or 70s were remarkably good, and during those decades their bodies were doing something most modern bodies never get the chance to do. They were working exactly the way evolution built them to work. Anthropologist Richard Lee's landmark, 1968, study of the Juhonsi people of the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa, found something that shocked the academic world at the time. These hunter-gatherers spent roughly 15 to 20 hours a week obtaining food. Not 60, not 80, 15 to 20. The rest of their time went to rest, socializing, storytelling, and craft. This single study demolished the assumption that prehistoric life was a brutal, non-stop scramble for survival. It was in many ways less frantic than your average work week. But the real story isn't about how much they worked. It's about how they moved. Your body evolved over millions of years to do one thing extremely well: move across long distances, often at moderate intensity with occasional bursts of explosive effort, walking for hours while foraging, sprinting to chase down prey or escape a predator, climbing, carrying, digging. Your skeleton, your cardiac system, your muscles, your joints, all of it was shaped by this pattern, repeated daily for hundreds of thousands of years. Compare that to your day. You may sit for 8, 10, even 12 hours. You walk from your bed to your car to your desk and back again. Exercise scientist James O'Keefe and researchers studying what's sometimes called the hunter-gatherer activity pattern have found that this kind of constant low to moderate movement broken up by short intense bursts is almost perfectly aligned with what modern cardiology now considers optimal for heart health. Your ancestors weren't doing cardio. They were just living, and living for them and moving almost constantly. A picture of a specific day. You're a member of a hunter-gatherer band. Roughly 15,000 years ago, you wake with the light. There's no alarm, because your body's internal clock is fully synced to the sun. You walk for several kilometers scanning the ground for edible plants, roots and insects for edible plants, roots and insects. Around midday, you help track an animal, which means short bursts of fast movement interspersed with long stretches of patient, quiet walking. By evening, you're back at camp where you sit, talk, eat, and rest. Every part of that day used your body the way it was designed to be used, and gave it real recovery in between. That brings us to food. This is where most assumptions about ancient diets go wrong. There was no single paleo diet. Diets varied enormously, depending on location, climate, and season. Some groups ate primarily meat and fat. Others, especially in tropical regions, ate mostly plants, tubers, fruits, and insects. What they almost universally did not eat is refined sugar, refined flour, or industrially processed food of any kind. Anthropologist and nutrition researcher S. Boyd Eaton, in a series of influential papers starting in the 1980s, argued that this absence, not any specific ideal, macronutrient ratio, is the real story. Ancient diets were diverse, but they were never engineered to override the body's natural appetite signals the way modern processed food is. Your body has a sophisticated system for telling you when you're full. Hormones like leptin and ghrelin regulate hunger with real precision when the food you eat is close to its natural state. Highly processed food, dense with sugar, fat, and salt, and combinations that essentially never occur in nature can override those signals. Your ancestors never encountered a food source engineered specifically to make them eat past the point of fullness. You encounter one almost every time you walk into a grocery store. There's also the matter of fiber. Modern diets, particularly in industrialized nations, are often startlingly low in fiber compared to traditional diets. Researchers studying the Hadza people of Tangyag, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer populations on Earth, have documented fiber intake of well over 100 grams per day compared to an average of around 15 grams in many industrialized countries. The fiber doesn't just aid digestion. It feeds a wildly diverse population of gut bacteria, and that gut microbiome diversity has been linked in multiple studies to lower rates of inflammation, allergies, and even some metabolic diseases. And there's sleep. And this might be the most surprising twist of all. You might assume that without electricity, ancient humans slept far more than you do. The opposite appears to be true. Sleep researcher Jerome Siegel led a study examining sleep patterns among 3 traditional societies, including the Hadza and the San, none of which use electricity or modern schedules. The average sleep duration was around 6.5 to 7 hours per night, strikingly similar to modern averages, not dramatically longer, but the quality of that sleep was different. These groups showed almost no insomnia. Their sleep was tightly synced to natural light and temperature cycles. They didn't sleep more, they slept better. So if ancient humans weren't getting more sleep, eating some mythical perfect diet, or living lives of leisure, what actually made them healthier in measurable ways? The honest answer is alignment. Their environment and their biology were built for each other. Movement was woven into daily survival rather than scheduled into a 45-minute gym session. Food was constrained by what nature actually provided, not engineered by a food science lab to maximize cravings. Light and darkness, not screens, dictated when their brains released melatonin and chaetot. Stress came in short, intense bursts. A predator, a storm, a conflict, and then resolved rather than humming continuously in the background for years at a time the way chronic modern stress does. That's a counterintuitive twist. Ancient humans weren't healthier because they had access to something special. They were healthier because they hadn't yet built an environment that worked against their own biology. You, on the other hand, live inside exactly that kind of environment. Your chair is comfortable. Your food is abundant and constant. Your light never fully goes away, even at midnight, glowing from a screen 6 inches from your face. None of these things are evil. They're conveniences your ancestors would have found almost unimaginable. But your body, shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of a completely different rhythm, hasn't caught up to any of it yet. That's why a short walk after a meal can lower your blood sugar response. That's why getting morning sunlight can fix your sleep more reliably than almost any supplement. That's why eating food closer to its natural state tends to leave you feeling more satisfied than the most omisous processed snack. You're not broken when these things were. You're just, for a few minutes, living the way your body has expected you to live for the last 250,000 years. You woke up this morning already in pain, back tight, head aching, a body that hasn't moved in the way it was built to move for longer than you'd like to admit. But that ache is a proof that something is wrong with you. It's a quiet message from a body that's been ready this entire time to live the way it was designed to. You just have to listen.